Good morning. Bloomgren Seed bringing you your Monday morning alert video series. We're on Tuesday again, so we're keeping consistent with that. Today is Tuesday, August 11th. It's about 9 o'clock in the morning, and we are back out in the field that we scouted for Friday. If you remember last week, we were talking about soybean aphids. Traditionally, we don't think that rain knocks aphids off the plants. Remember when we talked in the video last week, they have a piercing or a sucking mouth part, and that allows them to basically attach themselves into the leaf tissue. What we're seeing in the fields we're scouting this morning is the aphids still exist, but we haven't seen much of an increase in numbers. And excuse me, as we look at the forecast for the rest of this week, we're starting to get into some of those temperatures that I think are going to help keep them at bay. So if you remember last week when we discussed soybean aphids, they're moving from the north to the south, so we'll scout on the north ends of our fields first, and they like mild temperatures. They're really going to expand when we're in that mid-70s range. The forecast for today is in the low 80s, and towards the end of the week we're getting all the way up into the 90s. That is good from the aspect of holding these numbers at bay. So our message as far as aphids go is just, keep scouting them. If you have fields you're concerned, reach out to us. The fields that we've looked at this morning are fields that we scouted Friday. We've seen no increase in numbers. We've seen about the same numbers. And in a couple fields, it almost looks like maybe there's a few fewer, which isn't necessarily following the trend that we normally see, but that's what we've seen. We got roughly 3.5 inches of rain here over the weekend. So as far as weather goes, 3.5 inches of rain over the weekend, I think that's going to help our beans quite a bit here in August. The other thing is, from a GDU accumulation standpoint, we're at 2,046, which is 23 below the historical average, which if you've been watching our videos, that's right where we've been. So we're really keeping consistent with our heat. I think we were cool in June. I don't think we're too cool right now. I think this is really ideal for grain fill and for pod development on soybeans. So the last thing we're going to talk about, this is not from this field. This is actually from a different field, but I've got some tissue in my pocket, and I've got some tissue on this plant. I'm sure this won't be a surprise to anybody, but as Dane works here with the camera a little bit, we'll show you the early onset of sudden death syndrome in soybeans. Sudden death syndrome likes cool, wet, and compact conditions. If you think through soybean planting this year, there's a lot of soybeans that were planted before the ground was over 60 degrees. There's a lot of soybeans that were planted into soil that had a lot of compaction on it from last fall. And then most of the early life of these soybeans were in cool, wet weather. And so as we look at these plants, what we notice is we notice the decay or the death starting in between the veins. That's consistent with SDS. And then the shape and the dying off from the leaf tissue. As we pay attention to this, you're going to see it in the leaf tissue. But the other thing that we're going to see eventually, and we don't have a great example of it yet because we're still premature, but if you actually split the plant, you will actually start to see the pith will actually start to die on the vein of the soybean. And so what makes this disease so damaging to soybeans is that it shuts down the pathway for the plant to move water and nutrients. It's effectively shutting off its resource center to produce soybeans for you. So we're going to keep our eyes out. Unfortunately, there's not a great management practice now that we're into the season. A lot of it's going to do with hybrid placement in the future, as well as understanding the weather factors and the planting conditions that went into it. But we're going to want to keep an eye on that. That's going to help us understand our yield expectations. So again, keep scouting for aphids. I do believe this week is going to slow them down. Keep your eyes out for SDS. As always, if you need help scouting, please reach out to us. We've got one other fun thing to talk about today. August 28th is a Friday night coming up in a couple weeks. We're going to have our end of summer customer appreciation party. We'd love to have you guys there. We've got rock wall, mechanical bowl, a band, barbecue, snow cones, tons of games for the kids, face paint, balloon artists. It's going to be a really, really good time. We'd love to host you guys for that. Again, that's Friday, August 28th. We'll start about 6 o'clock at night, so we hope to see you there. That is your Monday Morning Alert, brought to you by Bloomgren Seed in Boone, Iowa. Thank you.